So I saw a video earlier today while I was having breakfast from a creator named Modern Schematics, Modern Schema.
One of the worst things you can be as a man when it comes to dealing with women is a conflict avoidant man. So much of the things you want with a woman lies behind conflict. But you guys are so afraid of the consequences of conflict, you won't have the conflict.
And I try not to correct too many of these guys because overall I think that they're a positive influence in the space. I think that they're helping a lot of guys for the most part, and there really isn't that much I disagree with, but there was one thing in this last video that I felt like was a good talking point because it's something that the entire red pill space and overall, because I wouldn't say he probably doesn't deem himself as a red pill creator, but he's in like that psychology realm of female nature. And I always have said that I believe it's important to not be a part of separate camps like the black pill and the red pill, but to try to take knowledge from every single sector. And so I try not to, you know, correct these guys too much, even if I disagree. But there's something that I did want to point out, which is just so prevalent amongst all these psychology, female nature creators that they just don't seem to understand. So throughout the video was titled How to Perceive the Woman, Why Conflict and Tension is Everything. I'll start off by clarifying that I agree with the overall message of the video. What he's on about in the video, it's an overall good, helpful message to a lot of men who are trying to navigate a relationship, especially neurodivergent men. These are kinds of the kind of guys who end up on channels like this. People like me, fucking retarded people like me. So these videos are quite helpful, actually, and so I'm not disagreeing with the spirit of the video. Rather, it was something that he said in the video which sort of reminded me, like, this is something that needs to be addressed. And it has to do with a lot of red pill creators and these female nature psychologists. They seem to believe that women are using these tactics to filter out for good tendencies in men, good behavioral tendencies, like to check if he is competent, to check if he is, you know, able to be mature, to check his patience and things like this. And that's what it seems like on the surface. But believe it or not, the reason women are doing these kinds of shit tests and all, it's not really to check if you can, as he articulated in the video, he said his theory was that women are trying to see if they can filter out men who can't comprehend nuance. And this just isn't true, because this is not what they give a shit about at all. Believe it or not, women don't care about that. That's not something that's maybe on like the logistical end of it, you know, when they're getting older, you know, getting into beta buxer territory. That's when those sorts of traits really do matter. But I think he's mainly explaining this from like a desire perspective. And when women do these kinds of tests, I'm going to explain to you the reason that they do these tests. It's often not like a conscious thing that they're planning out. Like, I got to test to make sure he's mature. I got to test to make sure he's patient. I got to test to make sure that he understands nuance. This isn't the case at all. It's more often that these behaviors are manifesting subconsciously because this is just what has worked through evolution. And so, yes, I don't think he has talked much about genetics and evolution, so it might be, if he decides to watch this video, it may be difficult for him to wrap his mind around what I'm about to say, because obviously everything I tend to explain on this channel is highly derivative of accepting the importance of genetics and evolution, because I believe that that's where the truth lies in understanding our nature as human beings, whether it's male or female. So without accepting these fundamental truths, I think it's going to be difficult for him to understand what I'm about to explain, but we're going to go there nonetheless. Anyway, his his theory, his big theory that he added into this video is that men who can't comprehend nuance are going to be filtered out from the gene pool.
Nuance is required in life, and especially with the woman. Those of you men who do not have the capacity, patience, or intelligence to hold nuance, use nuance, and navigate through nuance will struggle like crazy with women and children. You will struggle to lead a family for sure. The nuance required to raise a little girl is not for the weak, and I'm 100% certain that the men who are unable to hold space and capacity for nuance, multiple truths as well. The men who are unable to deal with paradoxes, to deal with the counterintuitive nature of life and the woman. I really do believe that these men will die out. 1,000,000%. That's my theory. I think this is the next step of natural selection. I think the men who are unable to hold space and capacity for nuance and paradoxes and multiple truths, I think you guys are going to die out because especially now that we don't have the systems that we used to have in place in society, and the women are free to choose and select men through arousal, intention, and respect and admiration. Men who are able to read their mind and make them feel how the man wants her to feel. Those are the men who are going to reproduce going forward, for sure. And the women have already showed themselves more willing to share men than to deal with a man who isn't able to hold space for nuance. A man can't even be attractive, because in order to be actually attractive and maintain a woman's attractive, you need a capacity within your nervous system and your ego to be able to do multiple things. This is the reason why we see today a man will spend 10 years or 5 years of his life thinking all women want is looks. He goes down there, comes to find out he doesn't. Okay, well, all women want is money. He goes down there, comes to find out it isn't. Okay, well, all women want is this and all women want is that. He's so one-track minded, one-dimensional, and then he spent all of his life and he's got no women. I think these men are going to die out. A bunny isn't a threat, but a bunny with a gun is a little bit of a threat, right? I mean, I reckon I'll deal with it same way. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, what, a bunny with a gun? Do you know what I mean? I'll dodge right, dodge left, spinning kick, kick that gun out, disarm that bunny. So it's not really a problem, but it's still something to be careful with.
And I don't think this is the case. And I understand why he came to this conclusion. And the reason he came to this conclusion is the whole reason I'm making this video. And it reminded me of this important misunderstanding that the red pill space and this psychology space seems to have. And it's that women are consciously testing, but really they're not. They just enjoy doing these things. They get a rise out of, not texting you back or whatever. It's not to consciously check your patience. They get a rise out of these kinds of shit tests and all. And why do they enjoy it? Why do they get a rise out of it? Contrary to what he alluded to being environmental factors, like he alluded to it being related to some social, influences, whether it be movies or TV. I can't remember everything off the top of my head, but it's not that. It's something deep rooted in the biology. And why is it? It's just because evolution is pragmatic, and this is just what has happened to work. It just is. It's not good or bad. It just is. The reason females get a rise out of doing these illogical things, why they, want one thing, they desire one thing, but then will articulate they desire another thing. The reason for all this is just because that's what worked in evolution. We've talked about the dual mating strategy, for example. The reason why they have both alpha desire and beta desire is because dual mating strategy it's part of the residue of evolution. So when they articulate that they want, a man who genuinely cares about them, they want a man who's going to be predictable and safe for long term, she's not completely capping, and she's not trying to finesse you. She genuinely does want those things from the beta aspect of it, but that's not what controls true desire. True desire, alpha desire, that's just genetics, you know, like. But this is what's gonna. I keep going off on these fucking tangents, but this is what brings me to the main point of the video. What we need to understand when we consume this kind of content that Modern Schematics is making, Modern Schema, what he's making, we need to understand what it is. What we're doing, we are trying to emulate the behavior of a man who does not need to try to act in such a manner. Now, why does the man act in a manner that is highly disagreeable, that is, so the title was like, why conflict and tension is everything. Why a man constantly has like conflict and embraces the conflict in the relationship. It's because he doesn't give a fuck about losing the girl. Why does he not give a fuck about losing the girl? Because he can do better than the girl in the dating market. He genuinely believes that, and that manifests into his behaviors. Or he already has done better, or he is doing better, like he's cheating on her. Whatever the case is, what it comes down to, remember, all of this, it's derivative, one thing after another, but it all comes down to genetic value at the end of the day, and evolution, and us women being hypergamous, and even men being hypergamous as well, selecting for the highest genetic quality. And how you perceive genetics isn't just how you see the physical body and the face, but there's like 5 to 10% of the equation, which is behavior. The pre-selection theory, this is something that I always like to give credit to in the red pill space and the psychology space. Pre-selection is a very real thing, and it's one of the most highly agreed upon things, even by normies. In movies, you see, you know, like girls like fighting over the same guy. They get a rise out of that. And remember, like, why do they get a rise out of things like this? It's just evolution. This is just what has worked. Why does it work? Why are they attracted to that? They can't help it. It's not their fault. It's because this is what was most successful in evolution. The fact that they get a rise out of that behavior, it helps them identify the supreme genetics in the entire village, in the pool, whatever the sample size of men available in their site is. That behavioral tendency, those behavioral tendencies, is what allows them, it helps them select for ideal genetics. Because the man who is inflicting conflict in a relationship, the reason he's doing that is because he doesn't care. Why does he not care? It's because he has higher genetic options. And what does that signal? What does that mean? What does it imply? What does it insinuate? It means that he is high genetic quality. He has plenty of options. He's got bitches. Do you understand? It's not because the female doesn't give a fuck that he understands nuance. When you're watching this video, or you modern schematics, again, not to like hate on you or whatever, but I just need to clarify this to you. When you understand this nuance, she isn't turned on by you understanding this nuance. And I'm taking your word, by the way, that you have these relationships with females or whatever. I'm not going to say you're lying about them or whatever. I believe you. She is being fooled by your act. She's not getting turned on because you acknowledge the nuance and you're intelligent and you pass all the shit tests. No, she's getting turned on because you're emulating the behavior of a genetically pre-selected man. And that combined with the fact that if she is desiring you, actually, if that is true, 90% of which is due to your genetic value. I don't know what you look like. I don't know how tall you are, your face or whatever. I'm just taking your word for it. In that hypothetical situation, I would imagine you're able to hide your neurodivergence quite well. And this, don't take this the wrong way. You know, I'm also neurodivergent. So, like, we're on the same team here, right? But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to clarify, this is like a very big misunderstanding that I constantly see these red pill guys talking about. They're thinking that, like, the girls are, like, logistically testing them to check boxes, like to make sure you're patient, to make sure you're mature, to like see if you could be stoic in those situations. It's not the case. She might value those things more when she gets older, and she values the beta relationship, the beta aspect of it for a long-term relationship, but that's irrelevant to her mechanisms. It's just a whole nother conversation. But I did want to acknowledge that truth. What these mechanisms she has to test you, it's just deep rooted in her biology, because these sorts of things just happen to work really well in evolution. She's doing it just because she enjoys it. It's fun to her. And why is it fun to her? Why is it rewarding in her brain? It's rewarding because this is what has worked. The ones who weren't rewarded for it were less likely to pass down their genes. But this is why you see different behaviors across all women. Some women exhibit this to a much higher degree. Their ancestors had this to a much higher degree. Then we see some other women who are a lot more tame, and they're a lot less sensitive to these kinds of behaviors, and they could remain more disciplined. Someone left a comment once when I said something like, "There's no such thing as good and bad girls. It's really just a sliding scale of how disciplined the girl is, and it really, she's gonna desire the same things." And someone kind of like disagreed with me on it, and I do have to credit that person with saying, like, you know what, like, that is kind of true because of what I'm explaining today. Like, some of them genuinely desire some of that conflict and tension a bit more than others, but they all do to a fundamental level. Like, to a certain degree, they all do enjoy it. So it still is true for the most part what I said. There's no such thing as good and bad girls. It's more of like a sliding scale. But yes, some girls are a lot more likely to be influenced by these kinds of behaviors, and it's not good or bad. It just is. This is just what was successful in evolution. So yeah, I like this guy's videos. You know, I don't watch him too often, but I think of all the, you know, red pill guys and all, like, here and there's some that come to good conclusions, but often they're coming to these correct conclusions, and this is why I try not to correct them too much. They're coming to correct conclusions, but then when they try to reverse engineer them, they're far off, because they don't accept the reality of genetics and evolution controlling almost all of it. Like, that's the truth of it. So they try to post-rationalize and explain why certain things are the case, when in reality they hit the nail on the head with their theory because of something they observed, and then they try to reverse engineer that theory, and their explanation of it is just garbage. So yeah, I just wanted to articulate that, because yeah, we got to understand what we're doing with this red pill content. When you watch those red pill videos, you're emulating behavior of a man who doesn't need to try to act like that, just so you could add that 5 to 10% of perceived genetic value into the equation. And yes, that is gene frauding. It is a more advanced form of gene frauding, a bit more nuanced than just putting shoe lifts in, but it is gene frauding because those aren't your natural behaviors. It would be your natural behavior if women were genuinely fighting over you, and then you wouldn't have to try to act like that. You wouldn't have to try to not give a fuck about the girl in front of you. You naturally would not give a fuck about her because you have a higher option here or there. And so yeah, you would be fine causing conflicts and all. But you, if you're not getting chased by women, if you aren't the pre-selected man, you are going to have to gene fraud that. You're going to have to emulate that. And that's what those videos are for. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page of what we're doing here with this red pill advice. You're gene frauding. you're emulating behavior of a pre-selected man to fool the woman. And there's lots of creative ways to do this. But when you understand what this is at its fundamental level, it'll make it a lot easier to come up with more creative things to do because you understand what you're doing at its core. All right, I think I articulated everything I wanted to. I think. Okay? That's it.